Hi, friends. This is Joe Chadburn, the Ambassador Network Coordinator here at World Missionary Press. Today, we're blessed to have Vicky Benson back with us. Welcome, Vicky.
It's good to be here.
Yes, we're going to talk about some things that happened in Winona Lake. So, if you would fill us in on that. We were discussing this a little bit before the video started rolling, and I know people will be excited about hearing that. And then after that, that'll be another segment. We're going to talk about some overseas adventures.
I shouldn't get away from Winona Lake first without sharing that soon after we arrived, very soon after we arrived, I met Jay, who was the president of a youth group of a church there in Winona Lake. And he was one of those people that was very welcoming, which, that was his whole life too, I found out later. But he welcomed my brother and I into the youth group and really came after us and wanted us to be part of it. So we decided to be part of that youth group. And so then as time went on, I went to college. Jay and I went to different colleges. And during summers, I would work at World Missionary Press. And I remember one of the things I did was I did the bookkeeping for the whole year during the summer. There was that little bookkeeping. You could actually get caught up with the whole year's worth of bookkeeping. And so that was fun. I enjoyed doing that. But I never realized that I would later be asked to be treasurer of World Missionary Press because that wasn't my, it wasn't my major. I was more interested in writing and editing and that kind of a thing. But anyway, after college, the Lord called Jay to go to a graduate school at Syracuse University. And he also led me there in a very remarkable way and provided my almost fully funded for my master's degree at Syracuse. And then I discovered that Jay was heading there too. And it was like, oh my, Lord, don't let us get involved with each other unless it's meant to be, because I wouldn't be able to stand breaking up with him because we hadn't dated as of this time. We were just friends, from church, and we were on the Bible quiz team and things like that. Well, anyway, it did turn out that soon after we came back from Syracuse, we got married in Winona Lake. And the church where we got married was across the street from what had been the hotel where my parents spent their honeymoon.
Wow.
So that was really kind of an interesting, circle there. So we both started working at the denominational headquarters there in Winona Lake for the Free Methodist Church in magazines, because that's what we got our degree in, was in editing and layout and that kind of a thing. So I was involved with the missions magazine and the missions department because I was still interested in missions, overseas missions, really. And so as it turned out, we were married for about 4.5 years. And I can't remember exactly what year it was. World Missionary Press, in the meantime, had moved from Winona Lake up to New Paris. I think I told how that happened. But it was one of the dinners that they held every year. And these dinners used to be at Fairfield High School, which is near here, New Paris. And at one of those dinners, my mother was reading letters from the field. And I was so moved by them. And I felt like I really wanted to be part of World Missionary Press. And it wasn't enough just to be part of a magazine about missions, but I needed to be involved in missions. And so I resigned from my job there and I started commuting from Winona Lake up here to New Paris.
Wow.
And so I was working in the pre-press department at first, and that, well, if you know World Missionary Press, you would, we just had the first part there. and it hadn't been added onto or anything yet.
Mm.
And so it was much bigger than it had been in Winona, but
Sure.
it was much smaller than it is today.
Yeah.
And but it was really wonderful to go up there and be involved in doing the newsletter. I was doing the newsletter back then, and we would have to like type up everything and then retype it so it was justified, and
Mhm.
then cut out all the pieces, and on the like table we would lay it out, and put it together. Oh, it was really
Sure.
really archaic way of doing things. But so we've seen a lot of changes since then. But anyway, while I was doing that, Jay, of course, was still interested in missions as well. But there were 3 different people that approached us about the possibility of going to Indonesia
Mhm.
as literature missionaries,
Okay.
because the Christian and Missionary Alliance was looking for, they wanted to start a magazine for the general public in Indonesia that would be sold on the streets, literally on the streets,
Mhm.
because that's the way they sold magazines.
Yeah.
Was on the sidewalks,
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we were challenged by one missionary man, Dale McLean. He said, he took us out to dinner, and he was a missionary who was home on furlough.
Mhm.
And he took us out to dinner, and I remember he said to us, if you were my kids, I would challenge you to go to start going to Indonesia and trust God to shut the door if he didn't want you to go.
Mhm.
And that was a great challenge, and Jay really took him up on that.
Mhm.
And when I look back on it, I think, wow, that was quite a step of faith. He resigned from his job before we got appointed to go to Indonesia.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because he was just like heading for Indonesia as if we were going.
Mhm.
And so many things were just so amazing about it. For instance, the Christian and Missionary Alliance don't appoint anybody that hasn't been to their missionary training school,
Mhm.
but they made an exception for us.
Yeah.
And another thing,
So this was at this time you were going to be leaving World Missionary Press
and
for a
I
time.
would be too, yes.
For a time.
I was still working there, but Jay had resigned, and
Sure.
he was starting to pack up.
Sure.
He was starting to pack up everything. But the Lord had shown me. At first I thought, oh, we have to really pray about this, don't we?
Mhm.
And so I remembered how my parents had prayed about whether to leave Africa and come here.
Mhm.
And so we decided we were going to do the same thing. And we just decided we're going to pray through about this.
Mhm.
And even if it takes all night. And so we prayed in separate rooms, and this is the first time, it's very strange, but I was kneeling at our sofa in this little house in Winona Lake on Chestnut Street, praying about going to Indonesia, because we had put all the pros and cons, and one of the options we had was to start working for World Missionary Press
Mhm.
too. That was an option, and so we put all the pros and the cons and everything, and there were lots of pros not going to Indonesia right
Mhm.
away, but we were going to pray about it. So that was one time as I was kneeling there. And my eyes were closed, but I saw this valley. This is the only time I've really ever had any experience like that.
Like a vision.
Yeah, it was like a vision,
Sure.
but it was as if I was on a mountain and I saw this big valley, and it was like a voice from a cloud in the sky that was actually, the shadow of it was in the valley, kind of. It was very interesting, and this voice said, I want you in Indonesia.
Indonesia. So that was it.
For me, I was over praying. That was it.
Yeah.
And but I didn't tell Jay this until he had prayed through, because I didn't want to
influence him.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Sure.
So we were so sure. We were so sure that that's probably why we headed for Indonesia. Well, anyway, it was so amazing because we had also gone to a seminar that summer and were told that we should get out of debt. We shouldn't be in debt because God might want us somewhere and we would be tied down. And so the only thing Jay had, he still owed for his. You see, the Lord paid for my master's degree, but Jay borrowed money for his. Yeah. So, but he was so concerned about that that he took a second job at R.R. Donnelly's, which was there in Warsaw. It's a printing operation. And so he worked there an 8-hour-a-day job, besides his other job. And he did that for just a few weeks, and he got enough money to pay back, and then he quit. But it was really hard to do that, but if he hadn't done that, we couldn't have gone.
Sure. Because
the opportunity that came for us to go to Indonesia came up so fast. And it was just an amazing thing. So he was out of debt, and because they pay really well. And so even better than, the headquarters. Well, it was amazing. So we headed for Indonesia. We felt we needed some extra training, and I also wanted Jay to know what it had been like to travel back and forth from Africa on a boat, on a ship. So how I ever found this without the internet back then, I don't know, but I found a freighter, a South African freighter that offered 10% off to missionaries and would go from New York City to Cape Town. And so we scheduled ourselves to leave from New York City to go to Cape Town. And it was such an amazing thing. We left New York City on February 16th. And that was 1972.